You know, I try not to play recipe favorites, but Fudgy brownies are where it's at. I mean, cakey brownies are so good. They're just like cake, only richer. Yeah, but if you want richness, Fudgy brownies are basically like sliceable chocolate. Okay, crackly tops are good and all, but cakey brownies, I mean, just the texture, they're so good. Fudgy, cakey, fudgy, fudgy. Hello and welcome to this episode of Happy Baking. In this episode, I'm talking about the chocolatey baking wonder, the one, the only. We're talking about brownies. Brownies are so easy to make. They can usually be made all in one bowl. But within this simple ratio hides tons of fascinating complexities, and we're gonna dive into them in this episode. I'll be talking about both fudgy brownies and cakey brownies so you can find your perfect recipe. We're gonna talk about how to get that elusive, shiny, crackly top on the surface of your brownies. Everyone wants it, we got it. I'll teach you how to determine doneness so that you can get your best brownies yet. I'm even gonna teach you how to slice them and store them so you can be enjoying brownies for a long time to come. And of course, I'll be talking through how to get creative, dress them up, and make your brownies your own. It's going to be an especially chocolatey episode, and I can't wait. So let's get baking. Let's talk about how to prepare your pans for your brownies. I always do this the same way. I'm using a 9-inch square pan or 23 centimeter square pan. I'm gonna spray the whole pan all over with nonstick spray. And then I wanna line it with parchment paper. The goal is to have about 2 inches or 5 centimeters of excess on the ends that we can use as a handle to help us unmold the brownies later. You can trim the parchment paper, or I like to just fold it like this. Then we can press it into the base of the pan. Once the first piece is in, I'll do a quick little bit of spray. And then I'm gonna add a second piece going the other direction just to make sure we have full all over coverage on the bottom and sides of the pan. I've got my pan lined, I've got my little excess, my handles. So just one more spray to make sure that it doesn't stick to the paper itself. And my pan is ready for some brownie batter. As established at the beginning of this episode by my excellent acting skills, I'm typically a fudgy brownie girl. Fudgy! Fudgy brownies have a delightful chewiness, plus that shiny, crackly top that everybody always loves. But most importantly, they have a really deep, rich chocolate flavor. For this recipe, it's important to focus on proper ingredient temperature and ideal mixing technique to ensure you get perfect brownies every time. Start by filling a medium pot with about 1.5 inches or 3 centimeters of water and placing it over medium heat to serve as a double boiler. Place the butter, oil, and chocolate in a medium heat-safe bowl and place it on top of the pot. Heat the ingredients over the double boiler, stirring until the butter and the chocolate are completely melted. Remove the bowl from the heat and allow this mixture to cool slightly. We don't want to put all the other ingredients together if that chocolate and butter is too hot. Okay, so this next step is crucial for that shiny, crackly crust on the top of your brownies. So listen up close. In a medium bowl, whisk the eggs vigorously for about 1 minute. You can do this by hand, but I really like to use a mixer because it ensures the shiniest, crackliest top. Add the brown sugar and sugar to the eggs and whisk vigorously for 1 minute more. Add the vanilla and mix to combine. The goal here is to ensure that the sugar has really dissolved and that the eggs are well combined with them. That's gonna give us that beautiful top, so don't skip this step. Really take your time and whisk vigorously. Once the egg and sugar is well combined, we can add the chocolate to it. Remember, it's had a chance to cool off slightly. If the bowl still feels really hot, you may wanna let it cool for a few minutes more. Whisk the egg mixture and the chocolate mixture until they are uniformly combined. In a small bowl, whisk the flour and salt to combine before adding them to your mixture and mixing just until incorporated. Be careful not to overmix here. I usually start with a whisk, but as the mixture starts to get a little bit thicker, I like to switch to a silicone spatula for the remainder of mixing. Pour the batter into the prepared pan and spread into an even layer. Bake the brownies in a 350 Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius oven. I usually like to bake them on the middle rack for even baking. I'll bake the brownies until a tester inserted into the center comes out clean or with just a few moist crumbs. It'll take about 20 to 23 minutes. I know I said that I love fudgy brownies, but there really is a time and a place for cakey brownies. And for all you cakey brownie lovers out there, I really love this recipe. Cakey brownies are less chewy. They're a little bit more like a super moist, rich cake. They still have a lovely, fairly intense chocolate flavor, but they're less dense overall, mainly because the base of the brownie isn't melted chocolate, it comes from cocoa powder. For this recipe, it's most important to focus on proper mixing method to achieve the best results. Start by filling a medium pot with 1.5 inches or 3 centimeters of water to make a double boiler. Place the butter, oil, and cocoa powder in a medium heat-safe bowl and place it on top of the pot. Heat the mixture, whisking until the butter is melted and the mixture is totally smooth and has come together. Remove the bowl from the pot and let it cool down slightly before mixing it in with the rest of the ingredients. Once it's had a few minutes to cool, add the sugar into the cocoa mixture and whisk well to combine. Add the eggs one at a time, whisking well to incorporate each one before adding the next. You can do this by hand, but using a mixer makes extra quick work of it. Add the vanilla and mix to combine. Another thing that makes the cakey brownie ratio a little bit different is that they often contain a chemical leavener. My recipe uses baking powder. In a small bowl, whisk the flour, baking powder, and salt to combine. Then add the dry ingredients to the bowl and mix just until the batter comes together. With all brownies, it's really important not to overmix, so be careful. I usually like to start with a whisk, and then as the mixture gets more combined, I'll switch to a silicone spatula so I can really scrape the sides and base of the bowl well. Once the batter is smooth and homogeneous, you can pour it into the prepared cake pan and spread into an even layer. Bake the brownies at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean or with just a few moist crumbs. 25 to 27 minutes. Before we get into even more brownie deliciousness, I want to share that this episode has been brought to you by my friends at ZWILLING. They sent me their new Extend cordless system and I'm in love. Let me tell you a little about it. Extend is completely cordless and runs with this little lithium-ion battery. Just charge this battery up and it will power through 120 minutes of happy baking tasks. I can mix up brownie batter, use the small food processor to chop up nuts to put inside, and even clean up spilled cocoa powder with this little guy. Love it. Best of all, I get this all done without plugging in. And let's be real, I'm a little short on outlets when we're filming Happy Baking. We have lights, cameras. This cordless system is really changing the game. Check out the whole ZWILLING Extend system at the link in the video description below. Now let's get back to brownies. I love how easy brownies are to make, and that makes it even more fun to dress them up a little sometimes. Here are a few of my favorite ways to do it. I love to add a little bit of flaky salt on my brownies when they first come out of the oven. That way it sticks to the surface and that contrast with the rich brownie is so good. Another fun addition is inclusions. You can fold other ingredients into your brownie batter so that they're sort of studded throughout the final brownie when you slice them. You can add up to 295 milliliters or 1 1/4 cups inclusions to any of the recipes in this episode. You can use bite-sized inclusions like chocolate chips or dried fruit, or if you're using something bigger, you can just coarsely chop them so you have some nice variance throughout the brownies. Gently fold the inclusions into the batter at the very end of the mixing process. Sometimes I like to save a few extra pieces to scatter over the surface so I can see what's hidden inside. This is an awesome place to get creative and make your brownies your own. For even more richness and creaminess, you can also try frosting your brownies. I like to make ganache to frost my brownies, but really any of your favorite frostings work well for this. To make a simple ganache, place 226 grams or about 8 ounces of finely chopped bittersweet or semi-sweet chocolate into a heat-safe bowl. In a small pot, heat 118 grams or about a half cup of heavy cream to a simmer. Once the cream is hot, pour it over the chocolate and let it sit for a few moments. Then stir the mixture to combine until the chocolate is totally melted and the ganache is completely smooth. Pour the finished ganache over cooled brownies and spread into a fairly even layer. Be sure to let the ganache set completely before slicing the brownies. Let's talk about adding a swirl to your brownies. Adding a swirl provides visual contrast, new textures, and a boost of flavor to any brownie recipe. There's sort of two ways you can make your swirl. The first is just by spooning your ingredient of choice over the brownie batter and using a skewer or the tip of a paring knife to gently swirl it into the batter. Remember, be careful not to touch the bottom of your pan with the tip of your knife. You're just using it lightly, that sharp point, to help swirl it in. Or if you want to get a little fancier, you can transfer your swirl ingredient of choice to a pastry bag and cut a small opening from the tip. Just sort of pipe it over the surface in whatever design you like. And again, use a skewer or the tip of a paring knife to help swirl it into the batter. Anything chocolatey is a little bit more difficult to determine doneness. You don't have that visual cue of browning at the edges, for example. Test your brownies for doneness by inserting a cake tester or skewer into the very center of the brownies. It should come out totally clean or with just a few moist crumbs stuck to it. Take a moment to notice the color of the batter when you're putting your brownies into the oven. The batter itself will be darker and shinier, and as the brownies become baked, they're going to change color and have more of a matte look to the surface. Another thing to look for is that the edges of the brownie may start to wrinkle slightly and even pull away from the edges of the pan, just a little bit. If you're unsure, it's always best to err on the side of underbaking something like brownies. This will help them stay more moist and chewy, whereas overbaked brownies may start to get a little bit dry. As always, to ensure even baking, it's best to rotate the pan about halfway through the baking process. Slicing brownies or anything chocolatey can be a little bit of a messy business. The first and most important thing is to let your brownies cool completely before attempting to slice them. I know this is hard. It's really the hardest part about making brownies. Hang in there, you got this. To cut the brownies, you want to use a long, sharp knife, and you want to wipe off the blade every single time you make a cut. This will make for the cleanest slices. For especially soft or even underbaked brownies, it can be helpful to refrigerate them just for a few minutes to help them firm up before you cut them. I typically like to cut brownies into squares, but remember, you can always cut squares in half diagonally to create smaller triangle brownies too. A lot of people swear that brownies actually get better a day or two after baking, which makes them a great make-ahead or week-long kind of snacking bake. Once the brownies are cut, store them in an airtight container at room temperature. Cakey brownies will last up to 5 days, and then they might start to stale a little bit, but fudgy brownies can last at least a week. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Happy Baking, where I talked all about brownies. As always, all the recipes and variations you see in this episode are linked in the video description below. If this episode inspires you to make some brownies, be sure to let me know in the comments or use hashtag Happy Baking on social media. I love to see what you're making in your kitchens. And while we're talking about comments, I want to know if you are a cakey brownie person or a fudgy brownie person. Be sure to let me know in the comments. And you know what? Honestly, to make an educated decision, you're probably going to need to try both, because I know that's what I'm going to do. Until next time, wishing you lots of happy baking. I stand true. Save the best for last. Fudgy brownie forever. Fudgy brownie forever! Cakey's good too.